Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with pistachio crusted rack of lamb. I love lamb. Rack of lamb may be my favorite, and I love this recipe. Perfect when you're doing like a special occasion dinner party, entertaining for the holidays, something like that. This is for you. All right, so you're going to need 1 rack of lamb per every 2 people you're serving. And they're pretty standard as far as size. There's usually always 8 bones. They're about 1 pound and just under 1.5 pounds total weight each. Now the loin part is pretty much trimmed, okay? But you see that white fat over where the bones meet the loin? I like to trim a little more of that off, okay? So be careful not to cut into the loin at all. I'm just cutting off that kind of thick strip of white fat that just kind of runs the length. All right, so just like that, no big deal. The only other prep I like to do, take your knife and make about a 1 inch to a 1/2 inch cut between each bone. Do not cut into the loin. You're just cutting where the bone meets the meat. Meets the meat? What? All right, you know what I'm saying. We're going to generously salt and pepper this. I'm also going to do a little bit of herb de Provence, which is kind of a Mediterranean dried herb mix, rosemary and thyme and a little bit of lavender. And we've used that before. You can read about that on the blog. And of course, don't waste salt and pepper. You can do the old tapa with your meat on the cutting board to pick up any of that extra spice. Okay, next we're going to go over to our skillet that has just a couple teaspoons of vegetable oil. Over high heat, we're going to brown that on both sides. It's only going to take 2-3 minutes. I want to brown the meat, bring out a little of the flavor. So let the pan get hot, sear that top side, what was the fat side. Turn it over, sear that side for a minute or two. And if you want, you can actually hold the lamb up with your tongs like this. All right, to kind of sear that edge. And that's it. Put it on a foil-lined baking sheet and reserve. And we are ready for the pistachio crust, which includes, that's right, pistachios. I'm using salted, roasted pistachios. No, I did not shell them and roast them myself. That would be kind of crazy. So you can buy pistachios already shelled, ready to go. And I'm going to chop it pretty fine. I don't want a powder, but I want small enough pieces where they stick to the coating. So just about like that. I'm going to combine that with some plain breadcrumbs. Oops, I just kicked the tripod again. Some salt and pepper, little bit of olive oil, little bit of melted butter, and we're simply going to stir that until we have a nice crumb crust topping. Next, we need something to glue the crust onto the lamb, which is going to be some delicious Dijon mustard. All right, how much? I don't think I've ever measured it. I'm going to guess about 1.5 tablespoons, 2 tablespoons per, but enough to coat. And then once the mustard is coating the lamb, you're going to carefully pat your topping onto all surface areas, not so much the bottom, of course. And you'll see I just leave my hand sort of in the front to sort of trap as much of that crumb topping as I can. No matter how good of a job you do, some's going to fall off. That's okay. I just don't want it underneath the lamb, like burning. So I'm going to collect that, put it on top, and if I have any little stragglers on the pan, I'll just sort of wipe that up before I hit the oven, which is what I'm doing next. All right, so we're going to go over to the oven, which has been preheated to 400 degrees. We are going to cook our lamb for 20 to 25 minutes. Depends. So we want an internal temperature of about 125-ish for medium rare to medium. For me, 23 minutes was perfect. Take it off the pan. Do not let it rest on the pan. The pan's hot. Bring the lamb to your cutting board and let it rest there at least 10 minutes. All right, you should see some juice when you cut, but not a giant pool of, liquid. All right, 10 minutes later, we are going to carve this lamb, which is, if I do say so myself, magnificent looking. And the reason this is so easy to cut, because you can see the bones. So turn it that way so you can see the bones facing you, and you're going to simply cut in between the bones. I like to cut it in half first, so 4 bones on one side, 4 bones on the other. Look at that. Amazing. Make sure you cook your meat like this, pink. Don't cook rack of lamb well done. You might as well eat some other kind of meat. Just kind of wasting it. All right. Then I like to cut that half and half. And I like to give one from that end and one from the other end because there's a little more meat around the bones that are thinner. The bones get a little bigger towards that end and the loin gets a little smaller. So kind of mix the pieces so everyone gets, equal portion. And that's it. The rest of the video is pretty much me torturing you eating this amazing lamb. Just truly delicious. The tanginess of the mustard with that sweet, nutty, rich pistachio. Absolutely perfect with lamb. And what I like about this most of all, you bring this to the table and people are just sure you were slaving away all day in the kitchen. It looks fancy. And little do they know, So simple and easy. I hope you give this a try. All the ingredients are on the site. All right, there wasn't many, there was a few. So go check it out. And as always, enjoy.